So I lied to you guys. Hey folks, Drunken Homemaker here, and today I'm going to be talking about my much requested, to my chagrin, uh, update on my rubber plant propagation. But we got to do it. Here we go. So the reason that I've been sort of dreading this and I've been dragging my feet on this video, amongst other, global pandemic things notwithstanding, right? I have been dragging my feet a little bit because this propagation did not go as expected. And that's okay. It happens. I had propagated a rubber plant before and had a lot of success. I have a theory as to why I was so successful the time that I did it before in water, like kind of just phoning it in, and everything turned out fine. Now, I was not successful this round. I will go ahead and post the video here of the original video because I think I made a lot of mistakes. And we're going to get into everything that I learned, what I would have done differently. So now that I've linked that video, I will go ahead and also talk about the update video that I did where I saw that the water propagation was struggling and I wanted to move everything over to soil. I want to show you the cuttings, original mama plant, and then talk a little bit about what I would do differently. So here is mama plant. There's a spider on the plant. I probably shouldn't say that because that'll be very distracting for folks watching the video. I don't mind. I don't mind spiders at all. I know they're very good on my plants. So this is mama plant. She has had a bout of spider mites. So some of her leaves are looking a little worse for the wear. But all in all, if you see that video, I chopped her back real good, real good. And to the point where I triggered a lot of people in the comments. It's really funny. People were like, that was unnecessary. You almost killed that plant. Here she is. She's doing great. You could see where I cut. I cut here. I hope you can see that actually. I cut here. Ooh, make sure I don't touch the spider. I cut here and I cut here. And she has gotten all this growth from, I want to say it's going to be like a year ago. It was in January, I think, that I propagated this plant. Mama plant's doing great. That was not the issue. That is not one of my regrets. I want to be clear on that. So I'm going to move mama plant over here, and then I'm going to show you the very, very sad truth of what a failure this propagation was. It wasn't a complete failure, but it was to some degree a failure. So here is the only cuttings that survived. I wanted to be honest about this. It sucks. It really sucks that this is the only thing that survived, because if you saw that video, I took a lot of cuttings from this plant. I chopped her real good, and I was hoping to get a lot of cuttings from this plant and start a lot of, I got a little leaf dropping, and start a lot of new plants. Unfortunately, only 2 of the cuttings really survived. I actually have the dried up cuttings that I saved here just for this video. Every time I look at them, I'm reminded of my failure. But that's okay. If this year has taught me anything, it's that you fail and then you get back up and you try it again, right? So these are the only cuttings that survived. And I have a theory as to why they survived and why I had such a low success rate with the cuttings. So this is what it looks like. Very pretty, very healthy. Again, spider mites have hit all of my rubber plants pretty bad. So if you're seeing something a little, if you're seeing that they're not their usual glossy texture, it's because the spider mites have done a number on them. And I am going to continue to treat them with neem oil. So we're going to get into it. Why did the cuttings do so badly? What would I do differently? A number of things. The first thing that I would do differently, that I learned the hard way from this epic failure, is I would not propagate in the wintertime for rubber plants. There's a lot of plants that you can pretty much propagate any time of year, and they're perfectly happy to give you roots. They're perfectly happy to thrive under any conditions. Rubber plants are not one of those. They hail from a very warm climate. So already propagating them in the wintertime, especially in a place as cold as Buffalo is, and especially knowing how cold my house gets in the wintertime, which is a bad idea. I'll say it. So that's the first thing that I would do differently. Wait until the warmer months, whatever that means in your area, in your corner of the world. So spring or summer. Personally, springs are pretty cold here too, so I would probably wait until the summertime where it is nice and humid and warm, at least in my climate, to propagate these. If not, I would say you're going to have to create that environment by either, putting it in a plastic bag or something, put a little baggie over it, especially if you live in a drier climate. Thing number 2, I did wrong, and actually you folks let me know that I did it wrong in the comments, which I'm so grateful for that. So when you cut rubber plant cuttings, there is a little sap that comes out that is actually latex. It's why they're called rubber plants. And somebody pointed out in the comments section, and I've actually since watched a ton of videos about how to propagate rubber plants, and I've seen people do this. You have to dab the sap until it stops running. So you have to make sure that you have a cloth with you. I would say probably get something disposable because it gets really, really sticky. So I probably wouldn't use something like this. It's a microfiber. But something that's disposable, and make sure when you make the cut, you hold it on the cut and make sure that you just let that, sink into the cloth that you're using. Because if it stays on the plant, it's going to make it very difficult for roots to form there, is what I found out the hard way. Thing number 3 that I think went wrong, I propagated these in water to begin with. Big mistake, huge. That was, I regret it. I really, really do regret it because they basically languished in this water for months, not really forming any type of root system. They formed roots, they did. I showed that in the update video. I'm gonna see if I can insert some footage. They did form roots, but it took forever for them to form roots, partially because, it was too cold. But secondly, they don't prefer to be propagated in water. Is it possible to propagate them in water? Yeah, I've done it before successfully. My mom has this amazing cutting of my rubber plant that was propagated in water. However, soil propagation is the way to go with rubber plants. Thing number 4 that I don't think I necessarily did this wrong. I just want to make sure to mention it in this video. Soil. Soil mix is going to be really important. You want something that is going to, especially because you're not propagating in water, you want a soil mixture that has plenty of perlite in it so that the roots are able to have access to air and so that they will form quickly. So I'm kind of losing track of all the things that I did wrong. I don't know what number I'm on. I mean, I'm on either 5 or 6. But the other thing that I would do differently this time is if you watch that video, what I actually did was I cut the stem maybe like 2 or 3 leaves down and I left all the leaves intact. And actually, I would do things differently. And there's actually a video that I'm going to link to below that does it correctly. So I'm actually going to link, and I think it's in my original video too, I'm going to link to Crazy Plant Guy because I think he does a really good job of taking these cuttings and he's doing kind of, he just does it right on the node, right? And he cuts these little pieces right at the node and roots that in soil. And that's what I would have done differently, honestly, because I was so concerned about losing leaves. And let me just say, with this plant, if you propagate it, you're going to lose leaves because the plant is doing everything, is trying to get rid of all of the extra energy it's exerting, right, by keeping these leaves alive. So it's going to immediately start getting rid of leaves. So I would say that your best bet is to not worry about the leaf falling off and just worrying about rooting this particular node, this little intersection where the leaf is. So to give you an idea, something like this with a leaf would be something perfect to throw in some soil. You're going to lose leaves. That's that on that. Just be okay with the fact that the leaves are going to fall off, and the way that you're going to sort of increase your success rate is by taking more smaller cuttings instead of the bigger cuttings that I took in that video. That was a big mistake, and I regret that. And this is a great example actually right here. This is a great example of what happens to the leaf because, and I made sure to keep this on there, what happens to the leaf because the plant is desperately trying to form roots and is trying to refocus all of the energy into root production. And so it's doing this to the leaves. So you see, it's not even worth it to really try to conserve the leaves because they're going to suffer and then they're going to kind of look like this. So I was just waiting for this video to sort of pop this leaf off. So I'll do that right after this video. The other thing that might have been a contributing factor to these cuttings not doing great might have been that I am really bad at checking on stuff. So I think part of some of the cuttings failing might have been that I didn't stay on top of watering it. So what's really important about when you're trying to root something in soil is making sure that you're keeping the soil moist until those roots are formed. So what that means is that we're making sure that the soil is not drying out until we know that there are roots that are able to take up water. And then when you have those roots, you're able to then back off with the watering and maybe water once a week. But until those roots are well established, I would say make sure that it doesn't dry out all the way. So I don't think I did the greatest job with some of those cuttings, and that's probably why they failed also. But this one, I mean, I will say this one looks pretty healthy, all things considered, because, you know, it was disappointing to lose that many cuttings, but I do feel like I learned a lot, and my failure is hopefully going to be your success. As far as care for the plant, this plant needs as much sun as you can give it, as is feasibly possible. This plant needs the most sun. That's not to say that you're going to take it out into direct sunlight outside in the summertime and it's not going to scorch. It's going to scorch if you don't climatize it, right? A little bit at a time. If you're bringing this home from a plant shop, put it in your sunniest window, give it the most sun. You can see I haven't been rotating this one as well. So you can see this one's kind of reaching for some sunlight over here. So I actually turned it back this way. But you want to rotate it, you know, at least once a week, I would say. Just rotate it so that it continues to reach in all directions and so it continues to keep that beautiful form that it has naturally. And like I mentioned in my last video, I can't tell you how often to water. Why? Why can't I tell you? The reason is that depending on your climate, your soil in your household might dry out faster than mine or slower than mine. So that's why I can't give you an accurate assessment of when to water. You really do have to, again, like I said in my last video, intuit. Learn how to look for the signs. Like I can feel the top of this soil and I can feel it's actually really moist. So actually I don't need to water this until probably another 3 or 4 days. Yeah, this one's fine. And that's really what you want to do is if you stick your finger in there and you feel like it's dry, then yeah, throw it some water, but I can't tell you for sure. And it's something that you're gonna learn as you work with your plants. With the watering, most of the time, it'll be about once a week. And it's a good idea to check these obviously for spider mites because I did have an outbreak of spider mites during the warmer season and it was a pain in the butt. And it really did affect, you know, like you could see these leaves are a little bit grayer and they're not as glossy and gorgeous as these leaves up here. So it does affect your plant. It does affect the appearance of the plant. However, they're really tough plants and they can bounce back. I think that's everything for this update. It's pretty short and sweet. I do want to attempt this and do an update, like not an update video, but I want to redo the original video with all of these tips in there. So yeah, that was actually really short and sweet. I wasn't expecting it to go that fast, probably because I've been dragging my feet. That's always how it goes. You always drag your feet to do something, and then when you actually do it, it's actually a lot faster than you thought it was going to be. I so appreciate authenticity and transparency from YouTubers that I view. So I wanted to be honest about this and tell you that yes, it was an epic failure. We're in such a wonderful time where information is readily available. There's a great big plant community forming and everyone for the most part wants to share their knowledge and hopefully we can continue to share that knowledge without being judgmental, without being cruel. So yeah, so basically I'm here to learn and this situation has humbled me immensely. So and if you are interested in more propagation stuff, I will link a playlist up here. And let me know in the comments below if there is a specific plant that you are looking to propagate. Please make sure to click like if you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you would like to watch more of my content, and click the bell to be notified when I upload. That's really it for me. Thank you for coming on this journey with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.